Hi, I'm Sajit Green, and I'm the author of a new e-course for women that's all about self-acceptance. And it's really more than just about self-acceptance. It's not about an intellectual understanding of self-acceptance. Rather, it takes you through a journey to experience more self-acceptance. I've created a series of 3 videos to introduce the course to you. This is the first of 3. And to begin, I wanted to share a personal story that actually starts with failure and moves through self-compassion to get to greater self-acceptance. Because this is the first time that I'm sharing this story, I feel a little bit vulnerable. It's the first time I'm sharing it publicly. What happened was that in the spring of 2015, I was planning to take a trip to Nepal to fulfill my lifelong dream of trekking in the Himalayas. Initially, my plan was to go in 2016, but as I was making my plan, the earthquake hit in April of 2015. And I have a friend in Nepal, so I felt personally very emotionally impacted and concerned for the devastation and the trauma that people were experiencing there. After a couple of weeks, after the initial relief efforts had been able to provide the needs for temporary housing and food and medicines and medical care, my friend in Nepal asked me if I would come in 2015, if I would come sooner rather than later. What he wanted me to do was to do expressive arts therapy with the kids in his village, which is a very remote village, very close to the epicenter of the earthquake. So my immediate response was, yes, yes, I'll come. And then I spent the next 4 months preparing for that trip and learning as much as I could about Nepali culture and trying to learn a little bit about the language and raising funds. What happened when I arrived is that, first of all, the project got delayed for several weeks. And when I finally was able to go to the village, I encountered 2 really big obstacles. The first obstacle was that the kids that I was there to work with, they've never been really encouraged to express themselves freely. So they were very shy and inhibited, especially with me, a foreigner. The other big obstacle was that I didn't have a trained interpreter, and so a lot was lost in translation. Communicating with the kids and really engaging them in the activities that I had planned was really, really difficult. When I got back home, I really didn't know if my mission to be helpful had been successful or not. And I actually felt a lot like I had failed. I felt like a failure. And I started to slip down into a dark place. My inner critic was not very nice to me. "You're a failure" became the daily refrain of my inner critic. Fortunately, I know my inner critic really well. I've been working with her for, gosh, maybe 20 years or more. I first learned about how to work with my inner critic when I studied how to facilitate voice dialogue process. So I know how to ask my inner critic to take a break, and I know not to believe everything that she says. What was really super helpful is that I got in touch with an even stronger voice within myself, and that was the voice of self-compassion and self-acceptance. That process that I went through really cracked my heart open. It cracked my heart open with love for myself and helped me to really accept myself. As I embraced those feelings of failure, I also remembered who I truly am. I've been focused on and really dedicated to this path of personal growth and healing and spiritual awakening for about 35 years. And believe me, I've been through tons of therapy, emotional healing, inner work, meditation, and other spiritual practices. And still, sometimes, those feelings of something being wrong with me or not being good enough or feeling like a failure, it can still be a temptation. there's a common theme that happens for people who are on the path of personal growth and spiritual awakening. And it's that we can get stuck on the hamster wheel of constantly striving to improve and fix ourselves, especially on the spiritual path. It's so easy to feel like you're not doing it right. You want so much to be able to be unconditionally loving and compassionate and kind and forgiving. But so many times we fall short of that ideal. We want to think positive and stay in the vortex and do our affirmations right. And so many times we fall off the wagon. Awakening self-compassion is one of the most difficult, one of the most challenging things for people on the spiritual path. I must say that when my heart cracked open, when I had to really face that feeling of failure, it did awaken my self-compassion. Self-compassion and self-acceptance go hand in hand. In order for me to fully accept myself, warts and all, failures and all, or feeling of failure, first I needed to embrace myself with compassion. And then I was able to accept all of who I am, the parts that I like, as well as those aspects of myself that I wished would go away. There's a really important paradox to understand when you're on the path of personal and spiritual growth. You're perfect exactly as you are right now, and there are always things about you that can be improved. Having imperfections does not make you a flawed person. It makes you human. It's just part of the human experience. So it's important to understand that you are just right, exactly as you are, and you can make positive changes. In the second video, which I invite you to watch, I will be talking more about this paradox and how accepting yourself fully does not prevent you from growing. It actually is what helps you to be able to go through transformation in a graceful, self-loving way. Please join me in the second video. And then in the third video, I'll be sharing more details about this brand new e-course called You're Just Right, 5 Steps to Self-Acceptance.